Okay.
Yeah, go ahead when you're ready, Wes. We can see your we can see your screen.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Essentially, the main purpose of GeoSite is to obviously allow a user to replicate a block of land to scale and then site a house on that block of land, and also check that the site plan itself complies with setback requirements, site coverage, and things like that. And also to look at solar access the house on the lot. So ensuring we've got the best design for the block. And then also looking at, if need be, making changes to the standard design, adding sort of additional rooms or extending garages and things like that. And then sort of moving on from that, we can add some surface levels to the actual site itself. And then generate an elevation model of the site showing the cut and fill and the excavation matters and the cut and fill depths, driveway gradient, any retaining walls that might be needed, and all that sort of stuff. So essentially what I might do is just have a quick look at a couple of blocks. Given this is more sort of New South Wales centric, I might just see if we can grab some New South Wales related stuff here.
You're saying the software is New South Wales centric?
No, but in terms of your builders that we're talking to today, are they more so, is the South Coast of New South Wales where we're...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'll sort of...
And I think they've had a product demonstration.
Okay.
But just making that observation, is the software compatible with all the states?
It is, absolutely. Yeah, so it can be used, used anywhere in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do here is just open up a block of land. So this is an example lot just in, I think it's Oran Park, potentially, in New South Wales. But essentially what we're looking for is some sort of a title giving us the bearing and distance of each boundary.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have the bearings and distances available, which is quite common in New South Wales, there are other ways of plotting the block, and I'll sort of run through how that works as well. It is also possible to import these PDFs directly if they're in vector format. So I'll sort of we can have a quick look at that as well once we run through the core process. So what I'm going to do is just open up our manual, which actually goes through each step of the process. So if we have a quick look here, we've got our help area, and we'll just run through the manual sort of following the process. So essentially the first thing we need to do is essentially enter the lot details and the customer details into the system. So we've got a sort of a step-by-step manual here. There's also videos that take the users through each step. So essentially here we're going to be entering our customer details and then moving on to the land wizard, which allows us to create the block of land. So we'll just go to our client details. I'll just enter a dummy customer name here, Owen Wright, and our site address is lot 732, and that is in Holden Drive, I believe. And I'll just put in Oran Park for that. Oran Park. And council area there, I believe, is Camden. So what we can then do is also just choose, in New South Wales, we have the CDC and the sort of local government DCP rulings, rules sort of set up in the system for setbacks and private open space and landscaping and all that stuff that will be populated in the sort of left-hand side here when we create the block. So we can just go with I'll just leave it as the default CDC at the moment for greenfields. So the next step is to go to our land wizard, and we can then create our block of land just following the steps down the left-hand side. So the first step is the orientation. So we just need to show essentially how the lot is orientated with respect to north. So looking at our plan of our lot here, north is facing up the page and our lot is running across. So essentially north is sort of running just sort of a bit before 3 o'clock if we have our block running up the screen. So that's sort of the approximate orientation. Doesn't have to be exact unless we're just entering a width and length to the block, in which case it will use that exact orientation. There's some other items here for automatically importing PDFs, and also it's possible to import titled land from the New South Wales seed website, which has got all the environmental and property information on there. So it's got all the digital cadastre. So we can import blocks from that, and also it shows things like your floor space ratios and minimum lot subdivisions and things like that, which is quite useful. So we'll have a quick look at that too after we run through the core process. So now just running through step 2, we need to enter the distance of bearing of each boundary. So if we just go back to our lot, essentially we've got our front boundary, which has 2 lines that make up the frontage. This is a slight curve at the front, but it's got the same chord distance as arc distance, so we can just enter it as a line. So it's 1.76. We just come back to our plan here and just enter 1.76. And the bearing of that line was shown as 189.5835. So it's just 189.5835. We then click on add front boundary, and we've got 13.24. So we just type in our distance at 13.24. And then the bearing of that line is 189.3055. This is 189.3055. We then go to our left boundary, which is 30 metres and 279.3055. 279.3055. Then we go to our rear boundary, which is 15 and 9 degrees 3055. So it's just 15, 9, 30, 55. And then finally our right boundary is 30.015 and 99.3055. So 30.015, and then we've got 99.3055. All right, so then we come down to our setbacks area. So we can manually enter setbacks if we like, or we can just ask the system just to use the CDC settings that we've got at the moment for the given area. So it then has gone and populated those setbacks. For some reason that doesn't look right to me, so I'm thinking the block might have a slight error. 13.24. I'll just try and create the lot. I don't think it's come up quite as I was expecting. Let's reset that. Yeah, that's better. So it's come up with the setbacks here of 4.5 for our frontage, 5.5 for our garage setback, and our side setbacks here for single and double story. So we've got essentially our blue envelope there is for our double story, and our sort of purple envelopes for our single story. We can click and drag that private open space box into position there. And we can then go on to the next step. So if we just go quickly back to the manual to see where we are, essentially it's open. Don't know what's going on here, sorry. Got too many things open. So I have to reopen it. Oh, actually that's why it's not there, because it was actually in the browser. So just going back to the manual, essentially we've got our Land Wizard entries all done, the block's been created, and we can now go to our location of the crossover. So if we just go and show the location of that, just by going back to our interface and just clicking on insert icon and then adding our proposed crossover. So in this case, I think it's on the, we'll go with on the right here, on the left, sorry, on the left. And we can then go and add our home design. So if we go to the home design studio, in this demo system, I've only got sort of the one home loaded there at the moment. If you, once what we do is do a bulk load of all the designs, and they then get indexed. So you can then use either just go straight to the home design that you want from the list and from the given home series, or you can also go to the home finder, and that will then list all the designs that will fit on the given lot. So doing it.
Can you add a design as you need it rather than loading them all up front?
It is possible, yeah, to import a design, and that's via the import floor plan option at the top there. But the best way to go is to have everything in there so you're ready to basically go from design to design on the site. But yes, it is possible to do it that way as well. You can even, it's even capable of importing a hand-drawn sketch and actually scaling that. So yeah, basically anything that's in a PDF format can be brought into the system. And also we can allow CAD drawings to be imported as well in DWG format. So if we then just go to our home design, I'll just grab this Armstrong, hopefully it fits on the block. It's a little bit big. So obviously what's going to come up here is an issue at the back because this is the only design I've got loaded at the moment, and it's coming up in red saying that it doesn't fit. What we can then do is, once we've positioned the house on there, and we can turn on our home offsets and see exactly where it is on the block. So I'm going to continue on and ignore the fact that it doesn't fit, just for purposes of moving forward with the process. But in this case, you'd either need to reduce the design, which can be done, or you would need to select an alternative design. So in the case of making changes to the design, it's possible to do changes in a couple of different ways. You can delete sections of the design and actually then redraw different components. So under our drawing settings here, we have different line styles for drawing exterior and interior walls for the ground and first floor, and also for the garage. There's also the ability to add icons, so we can actually drag and drop icons for doors and baths and kitchen items and cabinets and things like that as well. And the other thing we can do is actually add additional rooms and things like that. So we can add a room or an outdoor room al fresco to the actual plan as well, and connect that onto the house. So what we're going to do first is actually extend the garage. So to extend the garage, we need to basically just go to our edit home tool here. And we're going to basically extend this garage by, we'll leave a small 150 offset on the boundary here. So we'll extend it by 0.85. So I'm just going to basically drag our edit box out over the garage wall there. And then I'm going to just choose to move it 0.85 meters to the left. So it's then extended that out to our side boundary there. We can then click on the calc button next to our site coverage to recalculate our coverage. So it should go up slightly. It's gone up to 58%. And you can see the offsets have now been updated too. They're now 0.15 off our side boundary. Okay, so the next thing we can do is add additional rooms and things onto the house. This home is actually fairly, obviously not fitting on the block too well. So I'll just show you how to add an item, but I'll need to delete it. It's not going to fit. So to add, for example, an outdoor room, we can actually sort of choose to add an outdoor room of any given width and length. So what I'm going to do is firstly just measure the width of that al fresco. So I can basically just go to my draw line tool here and choose measure as our line style. And that will allow me to basically do a measurement across the back. Yeah, so I can basically just snap onto there. So we've got a distance of 4.199, so about 4.2. So what I'm going to do is then go to our outdoor room option. We'll do it 4.2 meters wide, and it might be, say, 3 meters deep as an al fresco extension. We'll turn off our brick piers at the front and just have the rear ones on there. And then we can basically just click onto add that. We can also specify eaves if we want to add eaves onto that, but I'll just leave it as it is. We can then basically click and drag that into position, and just as we drag it near the home, it should just snap on, which it has. And then we then update our site coverage if we're going to keep that on there, and it'll then update all our offsets to that. Obviously, we don't want that there because it's not going to fit, so I'll just click onto it and delete it. Okay, so there are different types of changes you can make. You can delete whole sections of the house and then replot those sections. So you can actually sort of, if you like, kind of gut a section of the house. It is also possible to copy a section from another design and paste it into this design. If there's a kitchen layout that you want to replicate or something like that, it's possible to do that. So from this point, if we just go back to our manual, just to see where we're at. So we've got our home sited on the block. Zoom that in a bit. We've got our home sited on the block. One bit I did skip over, which I'll go back to, is checking the solar orientation. So we can look at the solar orientation from any time of the day in winter and summer, and you can also choose any day of the year as well. And then you can basically obviously do what we've done there in terms of adding outdoor rooms, extending the garage, and so on. So once we've done that, we can also add any notes to the plan, but we'll just have a quick look at the solar access first. So we can have a look at winter and summer. So we can have a quick look at all day in winter. So we can see the morning sun's coming up sort of from the sort of the bed 4 side there, coming straight sort of around the northern aspect there and setting in the sort of northwest, going into our al fresco area there. In winter, sorry, that's in winter. In summer, it's a lot different. It's coming up far more in the east and coming straight up over the house and then setting sort of at the back of the house there in sort of the west. So the al fresco is going to cop a bit of that westerly sun in the afternoons, which is something that we need to be mindful of. Not a lot you can do about it with a block that's facing west at the back. So you would probably try and look at more of a design in that al fresco area to maybe to the northern side of the block, if possible, on that side. You can also go through each hour of the day. So as you're going through, it'll actually give you the shadow that's cast for each hour. That's the winter solstice, and then going through to summer time as well. Okay, so you can also specify a given date. So if you're wanting to say, I want to see the sunlight on, so tomorrow, it will then populate basically the solar access for that time. So you can see the date is 12th to the 11th, and we can then scroll through each of those hours. And that's for the actual location the site is in. So it basically goes from the actual location that we provide in the locality field, so Oran Park. You'll find the actual coordinates of Oran Park and use those. Okay, so that's essentially the site plan done. We can go to our text option here. We can add street names and notes and things like that. So I'll put a street name in there, and we'll go with say 18 Point. And we can then also just save and print the siting. So if we're wanting to save it, essentially, we just go to the save icon here. It will build a file name for us based on our address and so on. And once that's saved, you never need to recreate this block of land again. You can basically, once it's created, you can then essentially reopen it, change the home design, change the customer details if it's a new customer, and then continue on and resave it with a new name. We've got our print icon here at the top, so we can print it whatever scale we like, and whether it's A4 or A3. So essentially, if I change the scale on the side here, I can go to an A3 size, or I can go to an A4 size at 1 to 200, for example. So it'll then scale it to that and just recenter it a bit. And then we can go to our print icon and print it. So that's the A4 template. So that'll go to a PDF that you can then download, email to the customer. The other thing you can do is you can actually email the customer a link from here to the actual siting itself. They can then open it up via a link in their web browser at their end. They can zoom in, zoom out, have a look at the floor plan. They can have a look at the solar access in winter and summer. And also we're planning on allowing them to actually start planning their landscaping and actually doing a bit of a landscape plan on the system, and then outputting all the quantities for them to get quotes from their local landscaping suppliers. So essentially that's the core siting process done. What we now might want to do is add some surface levels to the site. So this is a secondary process, which is basically creating an site excavation plan. So to do that, we can basically go back to our site in Acrobat, and I can take a screenshot of that and import it and overlay it on the site. You can do the same thing with aerial photography as well. So if I'm wanting to bring in an aerial photo, we can do that. But I'll just take a quick snapshot of this. And then I can come into the system, click on the PDF icon, and either browse to an image file or PDF, or just press Ctrl+V to paste what I've just copied onto the site. Once you've done that, you just need to basically measure a boundary line that we've got on our site here in clockwise order, so in clockwise direction. So I'm just going to measure the back boundary. So it's just one click to start and one click to end. And then I'll just click OK to overlay it on the boundary that I click on. So it's then overlaid it straight on top. And we can then plot our contours over that. So I'm just going to check here, just by clicking on our image, we can see there's a slight adjustment I need to do there just with the scale. So I can just click on the scale and just sort of slightly adjust it. And just move it across slightly too. So that's a bit better. Might just need to come down slightly in the scale. It always seems to be a little bit harder to get it exactly right when you're doing screen sharing, when you're clicking on things. So what I'm going to do now is actually plot our contours, and then we can generate some surface levels on our site. So essentially we've got our draw contour tool here, and I'm just going to go and start plotting lines. And then press escape to end each contour. And then I'll just be adding the actual level those contours are to the site, and then we'll be able to generate our site plan. So we've basically finished plotting those contours. What I'm now going to do is just update the level of each one. So the one at the front here is 109.5. So I just click on the end point of it and just type in 109.5 and update. The next one here is 109. So the fall is going away from the site. I'm just going to move this text out of the way. So it's 109. And then the final one at the back is 108.5. So 108.5. Okay, so once we've generated those or added those contours, we can then basically either hide our site, we can actually delete this, or we can, if we don't want to sort of completely remove it, we can change the opacity to a lighter color just so it just sits in the background. So then we've got essentially the ability to generate our contours now. So what we do is we simply just go to our tools area, and we're going to generate some additional contours. So these are at a 0.5 meter interval. I want to go with fill in the gaps and go 0.25. And you can see it's filled in the gaps, and we've now got levels on our property corners as well, on each of the boundary corners. If there are point levels there, you can actually update those yourself and just click on those where they're provided. But if they're not, if there's no levels provided on each corner, it'll use the contours to interpolate those. So we can now save our contour plan. So if you've got a contour plan with a whole lot of contours on it, you just plot the major contours, and then you use the generate contours tool to plot the minor ones automatically. We've then got our create site plan function here, which will then go and basically generate a cut and fill excavation plan. So it will be interesting just to see here how we end up. There isn't something I did forget to put in the Land Wizard. I was rushing a bit, but there's actually an easement at the back here which I should have put in, and that will have quite an impact on the actual site itself, because it would need to be able to fill over this easement, and also would probably attract some piers as well. So we might add that in and just see what the difference is. So what it's doing at the moment, it's basically found the homes within 1.2 metres of retaining wall on a boundary, so it's just warning us about that. And what it'll do, it'll come up with our site excavation plan. You can see it's done a cut and fill. The blue line is where it changes from cut to fill. That's our cut level of 109.03. And it's tried to balance that cut and fill. So if I just minimise this grey box for a moment, we can see how it's plotted our driveway. We've got a strip drain that's been added, the blue line there. We've got basically a retaining wall through this section here. And just after the garage, there's another one required because we're right on the boundary there. And then essentially we've got piers that have been added to the slab. So essentially these have been added due to there being more than 300 mil of fill in excavation. So basically it's added 550 mil of fill at the back there. So it's added those 4 piers. What we can also then see on the side here is our cut and fill volume. We can see the scrape volume, which is 38 cubic metres based on a 100 mil scrape over the site. So that would obviously vary depending on what your standard scrape depth is. These variables are all configurable, so you just set them to what you have as default, and you can change them on each given site though. We've also got our site variables that can be output, and this can go to Excel as well. It's just warning us again about that retaining wall. We've got our general info at the top here, which is your cut and fill volumes, things like your driveway area, including slope, our site work area, there's fall over that. So we've got 920 mil of fall over our work area. It also then outputs a whole lot of variables here and quantities. So things such as your total linear metres of piers. So we've got 24 piers with a max depth of just over a metre, and the total linear metres of those piers is 24.4 linear metres, and the volume of those piers in terms of for working out concrete or spoil is 3.89 cubes. We've also got things like our setback parameters. We've got work area variables there, like run-ins for sewer, stormwater, and so on. We've then also got our retaining wall variables there, so it tells us our total length of retaining walls, 6.3 metres, and we've got our heights there, 400 mil, and overall areas. So these can all be printed off or exported to Excel, those variables. The next thing we've got is the ability just to have a quick look at our compliance. So we've got our notes that come up, and if anything is an issue in terms of driveway gradient, or if there's too much site fall, or the cut and fill is too great, it will warn us about that and tell us what we need to do. So in terms of the driveway grade, if it's over 1 in 5, it will actually just say, look, the driveway's got to be, the garage floor's got to be dropped, or the home's got to be dropped, or the whole thing's got to be pushed back, and it'll tell you by how far or how much. And essentially, you've got the control here of the garage level, so you can drop the garage by these increments. Those increments can be changed if that's not what you use as increments. And also, you can change the cut level here as well. So you can see it's tried to find a 50% cut and fill ratio at that point. So this tool's really, I guess, powerful in that it will show straight away what's involved in building on the site from the point of view of the design the customer's looking at. It's also possible to add a split through the design and generate two different building pads. So you can then sort of assess whether a split level is going to work on the site. But it basically gives a lot of answers that sort of upfront for the customer that often aren't really sort of realised until quite a way into the process. If I just sort of close out of that, we can print off that site plan. You don't have to save it with this view. You can just reopen the file once you've generated the site plan, and just click on Create Site Plan again to bring that back up, and it'll just bring up the case copy of that. You can basically resave a new copy of the file if you're wanting to change, add a split level or change the design or whatever it might be, and regenerate it from that. So that's really the overall process in a nutshell. There's also, as I said, the ability to bring plans straight into the system without the Land Wizard. So if I just, I'll just sort of clear this site for a moment. So we can, I'm just going to refresh. We can bring in a site like the one we just did without actually entering all those bearings and distances. So if we go to the land wizard, we can, instead of...
Is all the output two-dimensional like that?
Yes, I mean, that, yeah, all that is plan view output. Yeah, essentially that's how the pro version of the system works. So yeah, that is. So in terms of the disclosure import, we can do a direct import of that file that we just opened before. So if I go to our folder, let's see if I can find it. So if we bring up that lot 732 here, I just need to firstly just check what the scale is. So this is done at 1 to 200, and the orientation of north is what we had before. So I can just do the north orientation as it was, and we've got a scale of 1 to 200. It's on page 1, so I can leave that as is, and just click import. Okay, so what it's saying is just to zoom in with the mouse wheel and drag a crop rectangle out to extract the allotment. So essentially I'm just going to go and drag a rectangle out here, and that will just extract our lot. We don't need the legend and all that sort of stuff on our site plan. And essentially we're going to say okay to click on the front and side boundary to import it. So I'll just click OK. And I just need to basically go zoom in and just click onto one of the boundaries, and it's actually found that it's a full polygon. So it's now imported that. So all I need to do now is put my mouse over the lot and click on it. And it's just saying click on a boundary line that forms part of the frontage. And then it should then rotate it, which it has. So from this point then we can then go and choose our whether we're going to have CDC or we're going to have the Camden growth centres settings. So I could choose Camden this time. And then we can actually go and click on the set CDC, DCP rules. And then it's actually applied those to the site. So we're then right to continue on. We can add our private open space. And we've also got an easement there that we can add as well. To the site.
So the private open space you just change to suit the block, is that right? If you've got to squash it in somewhere.
Yeah. What it'll let you do is actually there's a minimum width that it can have. In this case, I think it's 3 meters. So you can see I'm dragging it and it's not letting me go any narrower.
Okay.
So you can just basically do that and drag it out. What you can also do though on any site is, we get rid of that for a moment, you can actually just plot areas. So if I'm wanting to say, with the landscaping, for example, it's 20%, 25%. We can actually just go and throw the house on there for argument's sake. This is probably going to, again, not going to fit. But so if we're wanting to measure the available space for our landscaping, what we can do is use this plot area tool here. And that allows us to basically start going around and plotting areas. So we can go around and essentially go all the way around, and it'll snap onto our existing lines and stuff on the site. So you might just want to say, okay, what's the percentage of the area here that we've got for landscaping? So come right around, and you can use the same approach for working out floor space as well of your rooms. And once you've actually connected it back up and press escape, it'll actually give us an area. So essentially the area is 69 square meters, and that's 16% of the site. So we can then continue on and plot more areas. So I can say I'll plot another area now. So we're going to landscape this front section as well, around probably this area. And we'll connect that back up. And basically that's going to say, now we're at 24%. So we're very close to our 25% requirement for landscaping. we probably only need to just maybe extend this down a bit further past the alfresco, this landscaped area there, and that would get us our requirement of 25%. So, I mean, this house is way too big for the block anyway, given the setbacks that we've got there. So, normally it wouldn't be such a struggle to find the required space, but that's got us now to 25% with those areas. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so that tool's quite handy as well for just plotting things, either just showing landscaping areas, or also showing your floor space ratio, working out the actual areas of all the different rooms in the house. The other thing I was just going to quickly show is the seed online interface that allows you to get the planning information for all the titled land. So if we go to import seed shapefile, it's just warning us that it is the state digital cadastre, and we don't have control over the accuracy. But that said, it is generally more accurate than sort of trying to import something that's an old title and plotting the actual lines over the top after scaling it. It's still going to be better than that. So just now opening that up in another window, I think. Close that. Might have just blocked it. Okay. It's better. So this is something that the New South Wales government has recently put in place. There's a couple of different ways of finding land. You can search via address or a DP number. Generally, the DP number is the easier one to go with. The search function for address can seem to be a little bit slow at times. So I'm just going to zoom into Sydney. So all I need to do is just go to the query function here. And if we go for our data source being lot and our plan number, oops. And the plan number is going to equal DP, and I'll just grab a plan number from the instructions, unless you've got a DP that you want me to import. Okay. So I've got one here. The plan number here is 260405. So 260405. And then we just go search. If you know the area where the lot is too, it can speed up the search process by, you can actually just query only the area that's in the view, which makes it a bit quicker. But for some reason, this one, the Victorian version of this has a search interface that's a bit easier to use. It's just a field at the top, but you can see it's come up with it now. So what I can do is I can just click on one of these results for that DP. So we'll go to lot 1. Just click on the 3 dots and go zoom to feature. And that'll take us to the actual location. And because we're screen sharing here, it's just a bit slower as well, I think. But it's now redrawing all the layers. You can see we've got a lot here. Zoom out a little. So this is all the lots for that DP. I can grab any of the lots, it doesn't really matter. I might go, say, one of these lots here. So you can right click on whichever lot you're after and just say find data on the map. So that's for lot 14. Once it does that, it'll come up with our lot and urban property records. You can click on either of those and say export to shapefile. And then you just click OK. I'll give that another go. So it's just saying file is about to be downloaded, confirm, okay. And you'll see a export.zip file. You can see I've done 77 others, but so it'll just be the most recent one. So I then just go back to our interface, go choose file, and to our downloads, and it's the most recent export file. Just click on import, and it'll just say click on a boundary line that forms part of the frontage. So if I go zoom out a little bit, the frontage was at the top here, and now it's rotated that block around for us. We've got our north orientation, and then we can go to our CDC rules and get our envelope, and then obviously continue on and site the home as normal. The other thing that's useful is that you can actually take a screenshot of your overlay of the actual satellite imagery. So if I change my layering here to New South Wales image, I can do that, and then I can take a screenshot of that. So get my snipping tool here, say new, and I can then go, okay, I just want to take the surrounding area. So I've got all of lot 13 and 14, and then I can paste that on top of this. So I just go to my PDF icon, Control V, and then we can paste that on top. So I'm just going to go and click down once here to measure our front boundary. So that's one click, and then another click at the end, and then I'll just click OK, and then click on our front boundary to overlay that. And I can then just do a little fine tuning if I need to, just with the rotation there. It's probably a little bit out of line. And then we can just shift it across a little. So obviously the aerial imagery is not always going to be perfect in terms of pretty good, pretty well aligned there though. So that's essentially giving you the set. You can sort of see the setbacks of the surrounding homes. You can see what's there. The other thing we can do is then turn the opacity down to say 0.4, just to make it sort of so we can still see our boundary lines and all that sort of stuff a bit more clearly. But you can turn that up if you need to at any time. So that is a useful thing for, you know, I guess with getting permits and things like that, showing surrounding buildings and their setbacks and things like that without needing a survey done. Okay, so yeah, were there any questions?
Tim?
Yeah, I think it's probably just the sheer volume of importing all of these plans as well. Like you're suggesting they're all done up front. Like if we've got a few hundred of these, is that something that we would do or you would do? Or
yeah, we do it in bulk. So what we do is we set up a process that we take, essentially we just get an example of a single and double story home, and we set up our importer to recognize the format of your files, whether it's DWG or PDF, and it automatically extracts the floor plan for the ground floor and first floor as a batch process. So we can do 200 at once within a few hours. We can get sort of 200 in there. So it's one process to get them all loaded. What we can then do once we've had, the beauty of having that set up too is once we have that set up, we can provide you with a Dropbox folder where you can just dump the files that you want to, new designs that you want to load, and they'll automatically go onto the system.
okay, so it's an automated process to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got 80 plus builders, so we don't have time to be mucking around with importing stuff. So we've got it. We make sure with everyone we set up at the start that it's an automated process, so that it's just set and forget kind of thing. Once it's running.
So what's the time frame to import one? Is it minutes or a day or?
No, basically with the Dropbox folder, it gets polled every 5 minutes. So if you dump say 2 or 3 new designs in that folder, you'd expect to see them on the system within sort of 5 to 10 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah. It depends on the queue. Like if we've got a new client like yourselves, for example, we were setting up and we've done 200 designs in the import folder, they've obviously got to be processed. So each one generally takes about 2 to 3 minutes to be processed at the most.
Yeah.
Some are quicker. It just depends on the size of the files and their structure.
All right.
What
So does
sort of
this?
what sort of drawing program are your designs in, if you don't mind me asking?
Ours are in ArchiCAD, but I'm just wondering whether it'd just be easy just to use the PDF files because they're more readily available.
Yes. Yeah, if they're the PDF files that come from ArchiCAD, we've worked with those a lot. So generally the structure of them is very predictable. What does help as well is if they have the layers in terms of being able to turn off stuff we don't want. The PDFs with layers are always easier to work with, but that said, we've got it working pretty well now where it can extract what we need and kind of remove what we don't need automatically from the file. So the best way to go is just to get an example of 1 or 2 singles and 1 or 2 doubles. That is I guess what we're after is consistency. So something where it's the same, every design has that type of file. That's the sort of thing we're after.
Okay. So does this do like a bulk printout as well? Like I'm seeing like you might have an estate and you've got 10 different blocks and you want to see, 5 designs on each block. Can this tool do that?
In terms of bulk, I mean, it can automatically site the home, but essentially the normal process is that you bring up the block and then you can actually, site one design, save that, print it, and then just change the design. So if you want to do 5 different designs, you're doing that within the same sort of time frame it takes to do one, really, because all you've got to do is change the design and then just check the position that you're happy with that. We can set it up for you to do it automatically, but the thing there is that you're then, I guess, relying on the system to position the house and check that that's in terms of the solar access and all that, that's maximising the potential of the block. But by automating the process, you're kind of losing a little bit of that, I guess, the human side of actually assessing things. But it can be done. It can be done if you're needing it.
Yeah. All right. So what about saying like wide frontage? I'm assuming probably wouldn't need that. Would that be right, Glenn? With the wide frontage, you don't need to actually site a home as such?
Sorry, when you're saying on a wider block?
No, on a rural block.
A rural block. I'm assuming you probably don't need to go through this level because I guess the setbacks are pretty easy to achieve.
Yeah, it actually is still done. Like a lot of our customers have, regionally based, and they still do want to show the location of the house, where it's sitting, especially if they're looking at views too, like actually trying to achieve a certain bearing of the house, where it's facing in relation to an outlook or something like that. But also looking at existing things on the site, like bringing in an aerial photo might have a dam and other things on the site. It is still generally, if someone's building on something with our system, if someone's building on any block, they'll site it on the system, whether it's 50 acres or a small 600 square metre block or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. Because I guess it's not just about making sure it's compliant, it's about defining with the customer where the house is going to be and how it's going to look and work on the site.
You'd probably, if you adopted a system like this, Tim, you'd want to present it with a consistent format.
Yeah.
So and it will print, it'll print at any scale. So you can actually do on a large rural site, you can do like an overview of the house. The house looks quite small, obviously, with all the distances, so you can see the distances to each of the boundaries from the house.
Yeah.
And then you can zoom in and do a closer shot of the house as well, with the closest surrounding features.
It's quite an impressive presentation. I can see why the South Coast, our South Coast franchise would be attracted to functionality offered here.
Yeah.
Jim, it'd be a nice integration with our design library, part of our software.
Yep.
Have you got builders integrating with their software?
We've done some things in the past, like with bringing in client information. So like with Click Home and things like that, sort of bringing in the client, the customer information straight through from the CRM.
Yeah.
Things like that. But also what we can do as well is any site plan that's generated has a plan ID, and that basically has a link that you could, so that plan ID could be entered in another system, and then you can automatically get the site plan via a URL to the actual site plan PDF. It also can generate image as well. The other thing that's possible is to generate house and land brochures as well with the site plan on it, and the facade image and floor plan and all that stuff that you see on a standard sort of brochure. Also, it integrates the site plan as well, either on the second page or on the if you're doing it on a condensed format on the first page.
So you're designing that brochure in this software, or it's a combination of what we've already got and then adding this to the second page?
What we do, we basically grab a template of what you'd be using as a template, and basically bring that into the system and overlay the fields for inclusions, where your facade image is, where your floor plan image is, and then it builds that on the fly for the given site. And we'll show the customer the actual site on wherever you sort of position that on the template.
Right, so we'd have a template for each of our designs with a dedicated spot to put this site plan. Is that right?
No, so like it'll bring, essentially what you do, you have it set up. The template is just a basic, basically we start off with generally your standard house and land brochure, and we then overlay the facade image field, if you like. So it will then go and grab that facade image for this design that you've selected on this particular site, and then bring that in and build the form in real time. So you don't have to have that set up for each design. We just either need to have the facade images, and the floor plan itself can be an image, or can also come straight off the site plan. It can just extract that straight off. So essentially we either need those things loaded at runtime. You can actually, when you're actually generating the brochure, you can select a facade image and floor plan image, and that will then store it against that design. So next time someone else uses that design, it'll actually say, already found the facade image for that.
So can we push that through at the same time as we're creating the plan? Like if we put a plan into a Dropbox, can we have a corresponding facade that goes with it?
Yeah.
That's set up at that time?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, absolutely. So we also allow them to be remotely stored though. So like it could be a URL just to an image on your website, for example. If they're all sort of named in a certain way, those URLs can be sort of updated. So for example, I'll just go to the home design here. So we can actually have a URL for the facade just there, or it can be just uploaded, via the Dropbox if you want to have it stored on our server.
That is interesting. Is there a possibility of having 2 or 3 facades against one plan?
Yeah, what we tend to do is with each design, we'll have, it depends on how you want to do it, but with a lot of builders, what they'll do is they'll have the Armstrong traditional, Armstrong classic, Armstrong coastal, and they'll have a floor plan for each facade. But it is possible to have just the standard plan, and then have another field that allows them to select a facade. And if you're doing it that way, then yes, it will bring through that facade image being loaded for that particular facade.
So how do accounts work in this? Like we've got a franchise group.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, does each franchise need to set up their own lot of plans, or can we share a standard library of our own plans against the whole franchise network?
Yeah, we definitely encourage a standard library across the whole network.
Yeah.
So basically, you have that central repository that is updated by from the one source. But then, if they're wanting to upload something themselves, they can do that into their own custom area that doesn't pollute the core sort of library, if you like, because otherwise it can get a bit messy with people loading things from all different sources. It can, you want to try and keep it nice and clean and all your, all of the content up to date as per your standard designs.
Yeah.
So they get the best of both worlds. They can maintain and have their own sort of sub library, but they'll always have the main master library that you can only sort of update as well.
Yeah. Okay. So we've already got a library of designs with facades against them.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if there's a way that we could set up like a URL, an XML feed or something.
Yep.
Where our franchisees could click one of our designs and it would import that or bring it into the Dropbox or however you need it.
Yeah, that could be possible. Yeah, if it's something, I mean, depending on whether it's necessary, like whether or not it's something that when the design comes out, it just goes to Dropbox anyway as part of the process of it being released. But it's depending on how you want to do it, that would be possible.
And because we've got a lot of custom designs as well, we might have 2,500 custom designs. And it might be one they'd like to put on that block.
Yeah. Well, that would be feasible to do that. What sort of format? Like you're saying, it's the floor plan itself has got the facade drawn on it as well, the actual outline of the facade.
There's an outline as such on the plan itself, but there's like a 3D render on all our standards.
Yeah.
But yeah, it probably would be the 2D outline of the facade for the custom designs.
Yeah, no, that'd be possible to allow that to be sent through the Dropbox. What we do is we set up the Dropbox with folders corresponding to your different design series. So you'll have a folder on Dropbox. For example, here we've got Millennium, Urban, and so on. So whatever your home series are, there'd be a folder for each one, and then under those is single or double story, and then you just put the design in the corresponding folder, whether it's a single or double for that series. If it's a custom design, you might have just a global custom folder for those particular designs that everyone can access.
Yeah. All right, that's good. That's probably all the questions I've got for now.
No, probably excuse me.
Yeah, well, the next question is really about your subscription model. We have as you're hearing, a group of builders. Do you have a model where we can take a collective or corporate account and multiple users access the service?
It is a per user subscription model. So I mean, it depends on how you want to work it. With my other sort of groups like that we've sort of worked with thus far over the last sort of 15 years or so, we've tended to deal directly with each franchisee. So they basically request an account from us. We then invoice them directly each month for whether it's 1 or 2, 3, 4 users, whatever they have. If you're wanting to handle that, you could. I mean, you could actually, we could just basically deal with the head office, and then you can sort of basically provide them with access, and then invoice them in turn. And obviously, if you're wanting to add an additional fee onto our fee to cover admin costs and all that sort of stuff, that's absolutely fine. So it could work that way.
It's not so much that. It's more about we run a collective fund that's used to sort of leverage products that we can use collectively.
Okay. Yeah.
So, we might have a smaller business that would access this tool once a month, and a larger franchise that might access it every day. But to create a model where the smaller franchise can still, take advantage of it, we take a subscription corporately and then provide logins to.
Yeah, I guess it depends on, it can get a bit messy with with when you start sharing. I mean, we don't enable at the moment. The actual way it's set up is each user needs their own account to access the system, and you can't log on at multiple times with the one account. It can cause all sorts of data issues and stuff as well by doing that. Being a cloud-based system, so essentially it's really one log on per person. But in terms of if you've got, what tends to happen is the builders that might only use it sort of once a week or something like that would tend to just have the one login. And at the price of $99 a month, it's still getting value out of generating these plans and being able to work with the customer and give them options off the bat really quickly. At a cost of really, it's $3, just over $3 a day as an investment. In terms of what they're saving in printing and reproduction and what they'd be doing currently with cutting and pasting and trying to put together things for their customers and having to reinvent the wheel every single time they're doing it. I think it's fairly, it's justifiable that even for a small business. But we could discuss ways around things like this, I guess. Thus far, it tends to be the ones that might have the one user license only, and then the ones that are using it more and doing more volume may have sort of more users.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, I think there's obviously potential benefits for our group, and we will have to support the rollout of this at a corporate level so that the designs are accessible and it's easy to use. How we offer it to our group, facilitate that, I think there's a bit more thinking to be done on that. So if you can give me a follow up with your costs and how you support a client like us.
You might have, the other thing you may be able to, the difference is to, I guess with the subscription model is they can turn it on or off at any time as well. So it's not like they're locked in for 12 months and they have to use it for 12 months or anything like that. They can dip their toe in the water, have a look at it for a month or two at a very minimal cost, upfront cost of $100. And then if they're fine using it, fine, they can keep going. If they're not using it that much, that's where they can probably turn it off for a period of time. And there may be scope there for you to be able to maybe, I guess allocate logins to build, to some of these franchises on a maybe sort of a month-to-month basis, sort of look at who needs that.
That's what I think would be a benefit for our group if we say we agree a minimum number of subscriptions with you, and then share that through the business based on the needs of our builders.
Yeah,
I can't see our builders remembering to switch stuff like this on and off. It's
yeah. I guess it's a matter of feeling out, their thoughts on the value of it, whether it's worth that to them. Because if it's worth $100 a month to them, and they're in terms of the time saved and being the professionalism and all that sort of stuff. If it is worth it to them, they mightn't have a problem with it anyway, and just be happy to pay that each month and maybe only use it. They might only be in there 5 or 6 times a month, but it's only it's giving them a benefit still. So it just depends on where that sits.
I understand that, but keeping in mind these builders also participate in our group by way of franchise royalties, so we need to demonstrate collective value with products like this.
Yeah.
So if they're already participating in a cooperative fund.
Look, I guess if you can give us an idea of the numbers and that you're looking at, I can then sort of work out, have a look and work out what we can possibly do. It's not something that instantly fits the way we do things at the moment. So that's why we need to kind of have a look at the numbers and see what's possible.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you can, I think we'd be thinking about 5 users initially, maximum.
Right. Okay.
So that'd be. I can't imagine there'd be more than 5 people logged onto this one time in our group.
Yeah. How many franchises are there?
So there's 20 franchises.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you've got 20 franchises and you're sharing 5 logins across those, I don't think it's going to work too well. In terms of what happens is when someone tries to log on, when someone else is on there, it'll kick the other person off, like while they're actually working. So it's not going to work too well across the 20 franchises. And and also the other thing to remember, Glenn, is that that $99 a month includes all future upgrades and support. So like I can't answer a question from someone that I don't even know whether it's a subscriber. So that throws in the other dilemma there with the support side of things.
Yeah, on the support side of things, the support's likely to come from us largely.
Yeah, I understand it will, but it will also be there's also always a reliance on us to assist as well.
Oh, there'd be an element of that, no doubt. Yeah.
So I mean, in terms of we can't offer support to say 20 franchises for the.
Yeah, I know the business of a lot of our franchises don't work with these sorts of greenfield sites. So there'd be a sizable percentage of them with zero demand for this.
Yeah,
there'd certainly be some use, and
I think even just from the cut and fill point of view as well, looking at that for the larger sites, wanting to see what excavations involved, even if it is a larger sort of more rural site.
There's certainly some features there that'd be useful.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
What I guess what I'm flagging with you, Wes, is you might, from our group, you might pick up 1 or 2 subscriptions on an individual basis. Certainly our South Coast franchise is interested in using it. So you might get one or 2 from there, but that might be the end of it. Whereas if I can draw on a larger sort of our cooperative fund and take 5, then we might see some take up.
It really does. As I said, it really does depend on if you've got 5 users and you've got maybe 8 franchises actively using it, it could kind of work maybe. But if you've got more than that, it'll just be won't work in terms of the.
Yeah, understood. And of course, this sort of thing we just review it as we went, wouldn't we?
Yeah. So yeah, if you're wanting to sort of get a few of them going, I mean, with most franchises, they're going to sort of tend to have the 1 or 2 logins, depending on the volume of homes they're doing. They might have a salesperson using it, and then they might have someone in the office doing estimating type stuff with it as well, and even house and land packages. So it just depends on, like, there'll be some of your franchises will be a lot bigger than others in terms of the volume they do. So that's where it'll probably come into play in terms of what is needed, and it'll be pretty quick. It'll be pretty apparent quite quickly if there's not enough logins.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. If we can release it across the group and guys really engage with this, then there'll be potential to grow the number of subscriptions we need to appropriately service everyone. Anyway, like I said, it's a sort of a follow-up conversation. I've recorded this. So are you happy for us to show the earlier part of your product demonstration as through our group as a recording?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
We might just survey the need or the interest off the back of that recording, and Tim,
and if you want to send
how we can support the South Coast subscription initially.
Yeah. Wes, are you able to send me an output from what we've got from our demonstration here? So the resulting PDF file and any export, like the number of peers and that sort of thing, just so we can see what we get from it at the end?
Yep, that's fine. Yep, no problem. I can shoot that through. What was the email address you wanted that sent to?
Yeah, mine is tim.martin
Yep.
at inh.com.au.
At inh.com.au. Okay, no worries. Yeah, that's fine. I can send that through. I guess the other thing too is if you want to forward the siting process and site plan process documents that I sent through, did you need me to send those again? Just to go with the presentation today, that basically walks through each of the steps I went through.
Yeah, sure. If you can send that through, that'd be good.